Everyone said their D was shit both years.
Yeah,
And it could be like
no, no, no,
incredible
no.
goaltending.
No, that's true. Like people said that, but I didn't think their decor was as bad as people proclaimed it to be. Like you had guys like Hainsey played really like they just had guys that like really played well in the playoffs
I guess in the
who were
playoffs, yeah.
defensemen like Trevor
But
Daley.
you can see that happening this year too. Like the Penguins just have a way to pull wins out of their asses.
Yeah,
That's just what they do. Every year, people are like, "Oh, the Pens are on the decline. They're falling off. Crosby's getting old. Malkin's getting old.
exactly. Murray's
They
not
don't have a
overrated.
supporting cast. They're cap crunch. They're overrated.
Yeah,
There's no way that they can continue this success. And every year, they just pull wins out of their ass and prove everyone wrong. And that's what happened at the start of this year too. Like they started out like absolute dog shit, and then they just fucking decide to turn it on and start to dominate the league.
when Crosby was injured too.
Yeah, it's what they do. It's just what the Penguins do. They win. It's just what they do, no matter what. No matter what their roster makeup is, no matter what people say about them, they win. It's just what they do. It's in their culture, and it's no different in the series or maybe even in the future rounds for this playoffs too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is fair to say that Pittsburgh's offense isn't where it used to be. And even a season ago, you're looking at an offensive, like you said, an offensive minded team. But their forward, I mean, wouldn't you say their forward core is a lot weaker than usual? Obviously losing the thrill, shed a few tears after that trade, to be honest. But overall, I mean, I feel like they just have a weaker offensive core overall. And Gensel hasn't had that season that I'm struggling to find my words for this. I just don't think they have as good of an offensive core as usual, but I don't doubt that they will go far in the playoffs. Can they win, to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals? That's my biggest question mark. First off, who do you see? Do you think Yari will play for them or Murray?
It's hard. Yari had the better season, I'd say, so I think they should start with him, but, they can't. I wouldn't be afraid to put Murray in. He's a proven playoff performer, and I would feel comfortable with him in that if I was the Pens brass. But I would start with Yari.
Interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, I would probably start with Murray, in my opinion, just to kind of, I mean, you're going to win the series, and kind of just to get him back in that kind of playoff mode, in that playoff, get him back in that playoff zone. And you don't really, in my opinion, if you're the Penguins, you don't really want to go to Yari. You want to get Murray into that zone and kind of get him into that playoff mode, in that Stanley Cup winning mode. I think, in my opinion, I think they're competitive with any of these qualifying round teams. Can they win the Stanley Cup? I don't know about that. I just don't know if they have that deep of a roster to do it this year. But like you said, Max, every year we say that, like, oh, they're not deep enough. Oh, their blue line is old. You know what I mean? Like we say all this, and they win. So it's really hard predicting the Penguins' trajectory. But we know for sure in this qualifying round, they're going to take care of Montreal easily.
Yep. Can't wait to eat shit when Montreal somehow pulls the win out of their ass in the Penguins.
So do you?
But yeah.
You think the Pens are competitive with any qualifying team? I mean, with any of those four, the four top seeds?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I think they are. I think they could beat any of those four. But we'll see. It's the Penguins, so they always win in the playoffs. That's the main conclusion. Moving on to our next and final series, we have the most interesting series to predict, in my opinion, which is the New York Islanders and the Florida Panthers. Florida Panthers, obviously home to, in my opinion, the most underrated player in the league, and that is Jonathan Huberdeau. Had an absolutely insane season this year, 91 points, on pace for a 100-point season.
Honestly, if you're a good player, like in if you're a good player in Florida, you're going to be underrated.
Yeah.
Whether it's Barkov or Huberdeau or whatever, it's just like, yeah, you're just hidden away over there. But that's insane. This the season that he had. I agree. It's just, he's a top tier talent in the league, and he doesn't get enough recognition for what he does.
Just an incredible season. And you look at the guys around him who had an awesome season. Obviously before they traded Trocheck, he was doing well. Barkov, another great season. Mike Hoffman, an awesome season. Played awesome, underrated, 59 points. Evgeny Dadonov, another really underrated goal scorer. He had 47 points. Dadonov, awesome player.
I know him from. Do you watch
2BC Productions? Yeah, 2BC Productions.
Yeah,
Dadonov. Yeah, we got Evgeny Dadonov.
Yeah, it's him. It's the meme.
Yeah, Evgeny Dadonov. He just memes on, but. And, you expect him, no offense, but, how he looks. He used to have, the long, shaggy hair, and he was, really tiny. You're just like, how is this guy in the NHL? But he's a really good player.
Yeah.
And he proved that this season once again, with a lot of high goal season. Keith Yandel with 45 points. I mean, this guy is someone who's been in the NHL. Like I said, he's like a Blackhawk. He's got barnacles growing on his stick. He's been playing in the NHL for so long. I mean, Jesus Christ.
I love that guy so much. I miss him on the Rangers.
I know you do.
He was really underappreciated on the Rangers, and I miss him a ton. Really, really solid blue liner, incredible offensive threat. Yeah. And a funny dude.
Yeah.
Very funny guy.
Yeah, I mean, just great overall. I mean, great big blue line offensive threat, not so much defensive anymore. And then you look at, they did a really good job, in my opinion, on the free agency market. They signed Anton Strawman to add depth to their blue line. That was a great signing. And they got Connolly from the Caps, and he had 33 points. I mean, that's pretty solid, and you should be pleased with that. And then overall, I'm going into, and I'm doing some anti-Hurricane slander here. At the trade deadline, they trade Trocheck, and they get Lucas Wallmark, who's a great fourth line center, and Eric Halla, who's had a great season for the Hurricanes this year and has scored a lot of goals. So this is a forward group with a lot of depth. And then moving on to the blue line, I think they have a great defense. Overall, I'd love to talk about, Aaron Ekblad. I think he's a really good, underrated defenseman. A lot of people... the bottom line about Ekblad is he's a top, he's on your top player. He's that good. He's a really good defenseman. Did he live up to being the number one pick? No, I don't think he did. But he's a really good player. So you got Ekblad, you have Keith Yandel. I'm forgetting someone on their decor who's really good, and I don't know who it is. They have Strawman too, but they have someone else who's pretty. Oh, Uyghur. Uyghur had a really good season. And Matheson is pretty good too. So, pretty good decor. And then moving on, honestly, Max, in my opinion, do they have buyer's remorse with Sergei Bobrovsky? What do you think about that?
Right now they do, but we'll see. With how he does in the playoffs, we'll see if it's worth it. If he gets the results in this qualifying round and onward, if they win, it will be worth it, I would say. And Bobrovsky's that defenseman that goalie where, he can have those cold streaks with those hot streaks, man. He's the best goalie in the league when he's hot.
100%.
So, he obviously doesn't have the best season. There could be, and if he continues on the trajectory, definitely buyer's remorse.
Mm-hmm.
But, I feel like he's a goalie who can always turn it around.
Yeah, and in my honest opinion, I thought he was the best goalie in the league coming into this free agency. Originally it was Vasilevsky, but he was miserable in the playoffs. So I had Bobrovsky in that number one spot just because he played so well. And obviously hasn't performed up to that season. The one thing that I want to discuss, Max, about the Florida team is they're very similar, in my opinion, to the Coyotes, where they have a really good roster makeup. They have a lot of great players. When you look at the roster overall, you look at it and you're like, wow, this fits. This is a very talented roster, very well paired together. It's they're deep. they also have those top guys. They have good goaltending, but when you look at it, they're the 10th seed in the East. Do you agree with the fact that they're sort of like Arizona and they're that team where they don't really have sort of that killer instinct, that Pittsburgh Penguins mentality that we're just going to win and we're going to tear through every team and we just win and that's all we do. What do you think about that, and just what do you think of the makeup of this Florida team?
I agree that both Arizona and Florida are both teams that have a history that mires in mediocrity. They just don't have that success. You have like no playoff success like at all when it comes to Florida, except for like that Cup Finals run like at the beginning of their existence.
Shout out to Paul.
In Arizona, you just have like a conference finals like appearance to your name. They don't have that killer instinct historically. I don't think Arizona doesn't have that it factor. They just don't have it. It's hard to say. Like they just don't have it. But with Florida, everything's there. It just has to all click at once. Great forwards, great defensemen, a great goalie who can be great. They have everything, and just all has to click at once.
And they have multiple as a backup. Yeah.
Yeah. It just all has to click at once, and they're a big threat.
And it seems to me, and that's all I could come up with, when I'm thinking about this Florida roster. Like, it's such a good team on paper, but it's just very, like, I don't know if it's like, obviously they care and stuff. That sounds really stupid, but it's just like, they just don't.
Honestly, I'm impressed with this Florida roster considering how they did like the past couple seasons.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed with how they've come together. But yeah, I don't think it's a care thing. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a culture thing.
Yeah.
It could be possibly. Maybe it's just hard, like not having any fans or anyone to play in front of. That could be it too. But yeah, I don't know. I think it just all has to click at once, and we'll see where it goes. But
yeah, it's just a roster. When you look at it, you just shake your head and you're like, why isn't this team doing better than they are? Because we can all agree, like, they should not be the 10th best team in the East. Have the 10th best record in the East. With the roster that they're at right now, that's inexcusable. And you bring in Joe Quenneville, right? He's their coach, right?
Yeah.
And you think, wow, he'll bring in, he's won like 4 or 5, I don't know how many Stanley Cups he's won. And you think, wow, like, he's going to bring a winning mentality to this team. Not really. So it's really, it's just really just an interesting head scratcher when you look at the Florida team. And I think, like we said, the only conclusion you can come to is I don't think they have that knockout punch, that winning mentality that a playoff team needs. Moving on, though, to the Islanders. Very interesting season, in my opinion, for the Islanders. They miss on Panarin. They swing big, and they miss. They offer $13 million plus, right? Something like that for Panarin. And instead, Panarin turns his head and goes to the New York Rangers. Then they also missed on somebody else, right? Didn't they offer big
for a pay cut too?
Yeah,
Panarin took a pay cut.
Exactly. Yeah, he signed with the Rangers for $12 million. And yeah, the Islanders offered him like $13.5 million, I think, or something like that. Didn't they also try to sign Bobrovsky, right? I think they did.
Yep.
Yeah. So they offered.
They're in the running for him too.
Yeah, they offered big money.
They're in the running for all the big free agents that summer, man.
Yeah, so
no one wants to go to Long Island.
It's a funny joke, you look at all the guys, they swing and miss. They swing and miss on almost every big free agent, and then they're like, all right, we'll just settle $7 million for Anders Lee. So kind of a funny offseason for the Islanders. Anders. They have their top dog, Matthew Barzal, who had another outstanding season. really just, another one of those guys who really underrated player and just kind of is the carrier, of this team